Welcome to Real Estate Agent Superstars. I'm your host, RJ Baxter with Intercap Lending, and I have the awesome and always entertaining Penny Crook of Canyon Title. And Penny is going to join us today to talk a little bit about the market, but we're really going to talk in depth about the new Nar ruling with some of the changes coming to how compensation is working for real estate agents. So really appreciate you joining me today. Thanks for being here, Penny.
Oh, thank you, RJ, for the opportunity. I love always chatting with you and sharing some of my title nerdiness with your listeners. So thank you again for having me.
Love it. Love it. Well, I'd like to start off. You have some statistics for us, but before we get into that, I'd like to just ask a general question. What is your current assessment of the real estate market?
You want the shiny, bright stuff, or you want the way that everybody's not talking about? So, you know what? There's opportunity everywhere. Wherever you go, there is opportunity. How's the market right now? It's horrible. It sucks. But you know what? we are staying focused on moving forward. Every year there is something that's going on. We're at one of those points in a 10-year cycle that this happens. So if you've been in this, if you've been in the business for more than a half a minute, this doesn't scare you because we've been here before. It just feels different. And so you still get up, you still show up, you get up, you dress up, you show up, and then you still keep making your connections and stay out there. Don't hide from this market. Don't hide because it's a little bit challenging. You still need to do the right steps as far as marketing yourself and making sure that people know who you are and what you do. So I think right now, as far as how does the market feel, it's full of opportunity, and that's how it feels.
Yeah. And I agree. I mean, I've talked to agents. I just had one on the other day who it's his best year ever. So
wow.
Which is impressive. There's not very many people that could say that right now, but I mean, it is just about going out and getting that business because it's out there.
I bet you if you asked him what he did through that, we'll call it the COVID boom, if he's going to tell you he was still marketing, he was still putting himself out there, and he was still trying to be of value to the people he wanted to serve. And he didn't stop because he got busy. He stayed on top of it. I bet you anything that was his secret sauce, because a lot of people got busy and they took their eye off the ball as far as prospecting. And when they did that, now they're scrambling to find where their next deal's coming from. Unfortunately.
Absolutely. I'll just be, vulnerable and share that I did. I mean, it was a refi boom for lenders, and you woke up in the morning and see how many more transactions you had coming in.
Right.
Like it was just nuts. And I did a little bit of it, but if I want to be honest with myself, I wasn't focused on those basic things you need to do. So it was a rough transition about a year ago when rates started to go up.
It was challenging. We've got some people on our team, and God love them. They worked with a lot of lenders and business was good. And I think for people in my position with title and your position with lending, you still have to really maintain our realtor relationships. And so what can we do as partners in this business? How can we help add value to our clients, who is the realtor community?
Yep, totally. So that's a great segue into sharing some of these stats that you have for us, because, I'm curious about it, what's happening. I mean, rates are higher than ever. It's the highest we've seen in 25 years. I mean, higher than even a month ago. And, people are feeling it. It's, there's people that I've had that were qualified a month ago that are just on the edge now, or maybe not qualified because rates have gone up even more.
So what
do you see happening? Yeah.
So right now, the median close price dropped a little bit from a month ago. So right now you're looking at $582,000 here in this metro area, Metro Denver area. The number of closed homes, they're down. And it's probably because there's less inventory. Well, let me say this. The inventory is up, but financing is not as favorable as it was. And so the number of closed homes is down. The months of inventory, look, we're still less than 2 months of inventory. So that's not a lot of listings. And I think a lot of that hesitation for sellers to come into the market right now is because they don't know where they're going to go. they don't have to move. If I don't have to move, I'm not going
Right.
to lose my 4% interest to, upsize just a little bit. Or if I'm going to downsize and still pay mortgage for my mortgage on a smaller house, they're just not motivated to do that today. The
Right.
purchase price, the volume was down 2%, which, I mean, let's look at it there for people who can afford the higher, priced homes. Do they want to? If they don't have to, they don't. I mean, it's now an option for them. The days on the MLS, so that's increased. I mean, it went up 11 days. So when you were with us here,
went
we'll say
up. It went up by 11 days or to 11 days?
it looks like it's 11 days. So if it went up to
Okay.
22%, I mean, so we were in single digit days of being active on the MLS. So I think it's important, and agents who are listening to you right now, they're talking about as long as it's priced right, it'll still move. It's if they can, show value for this home, it will still move. It may take just an extra second. I don't know about you, but like on our side, on the title side, it was kind of our funny Monday. It's like, hey, it's earnest money Monday. Come on, let's see all the people who's buying a house this month, right? And so now it's kind of changed to Tuesdays and Wednesdays now. So that hurry up and urgency of getting your contract accepted, before the weekend is over, it's changed. Now, buyers are taking an extra second to go and look at the house again. They're taking an extra second with their lenders and saying, okay, let's run these numbers again before I go under contract. So it's not that urgent rush that we used to see. Do you see that on your side too?
Yeah, absolutely. Except for the right house, like you mentioned. I mean, houses that are priced right, that are good, solid houses, or they're still going off the shelf fast.
So the number of active listings, it has increased 8%. So you're looking at 6,800 and some change for just listings. How many new on the market?
Sorry to interrupt, but these are all month over month numbers.
This is month over month.
Because that's a huge increase, 8.8% in 1 month. This is from August to September.
This is data that comes from Denver Metro Association of Realtors. Okay. So it's the report that DMAR puts out each month. And then, so this is the numbers for September over August numbers.
Okay. So how much of this is seasonal as opposed to just what the market's doing, would you say?
That's a good question, because it seemed to be that August, things seem to slow down a little bit because families that are moving with children, they want to get their kids situated into schools. And so you had that big rush in summer. And then once, hey, school's back in, so let's slow it back down. So I think September, October numbers should be a little bit better. And then I think we'll slow back down for the holidays. So it's Thanksgiving. Nobody's moving at Thanksgiving. I mean, nobody that doesn't need to move is moving at Thanksgiving, and especially at Christmas.
Right.
I mean, as a homeowner, I want to get my house decorated for Christmas, and do not talk to me until I take it down sometime in January. I'm not changing my house. I'm surely not going to list it for sale. Does it happen? Sure it does, but it's because there's a reason, not necessarily because I'm making this choice today because I don't have anything else to do.
Right. So, well, yeah. And I mean, it's a concerning trend, but we'll see if these numbers continue to increase like this, because I think active listings at the low point were in the 4,000s.
In the 4,000s.
That sound right?
Yeah.
Now we're 6,800. What's considered a normal market for
a good balanced market? RJ is 18,000. Is 18,000 listings.
So we have a long ways to go still. But on the other hand, if there was 18,000 listings right now, we'd have a problem because there's not the buyers.
Well, I think there's a good number of buyers. I think you still got the millennial generation who kind of stopped looking because they started looking at COVID, and then they decided, I'm not going to look anymore because I can't find a place. Well, you got stopped because of COVID. You got stopped because it's easier to live in my mama's basement. I don't know if we're still seeing that as much now. But fast forward that 3 years, not only that group of individuals who are looking to buy. They're ready to buy. They're now in their upper 30s. Now you've got those younger ones, the Gen Ys and the Gen Zers. They're now getting out of
Mhm.
college. They're ready for their starter homes. And to find a starter home is really, really challenging right now because, builders, are they building starter homes? I mean, you can still find, nice priced homes, but it's not in your metro. It's not your metro Denver. We work
Yeah.
with a builder who's up in Greeley, and they build very affordable homes. But if you're
Mhm.
29, 30 years old, I want to be where the action is. I want to be, somewhere close to a metropolitan. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, their business is still booming, but it's just the mindset of the people who are buying homes today. And the challenges that they are seeing is that it costs a lot of money to build a house.
Mhm.
Just new communities and water taps and
Mhm.
construction and appliances and and I think the HGTVs, of our society right now, we've changed the mindset of what a starter home actually is. I need granite. I need a 5-piece ensuite in my master. I need. And
Yeah.
so I know when I bought my first house, that wasn't a need. For me, I just needed a fenced in yard for my dog.
Right.
And
And a roof that didn't leak.
a roof that
Probably.
didn't leak. And you know what? I'll change the paint. It's okay. But
Yeah.
I think it sets a different expectation for people that are getting started today, where
Mhm.
what they start out with is different than what, kind of what we did. But you know what? If they can do it, more power to them. I applaud them for doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Well, and I don't want to dwell too much on numbers. I really want to get into this NAR thing, but um, one thing I heard is that on builder inventory, it's more inventory actually than what is on the MLS. Because what they do is they'll put one home that's the particular model or floor plan, but
Hmm.
there's really whatever number, 7 or 8 available in the community.
There may be.
So,
I drove through a new community this weekend, and although I do see every now and then a listing pop up on Zillow for this community, um, it's still just dirt. They haven't really broken ground yet on the
mm,
build, and there was, I would say, 80% of them were already sold, which really
interesting.
surprised me. It really, really
Yeah.
surprised me.
Hmm. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, it's a positive sign. There's a lot of, I mean, I think we can take a lot of positives from this because of
Hmm.
the fact that homes are still moving. I mean, prices seem to be relatively stable. I know your stats showed down a little bit, but I
Hmm.
think overall we're doing okay.
I think so too. I mean, like I said, it's full of opportunity, this market right now. And
Yep.
the, you find the house, it's location, it's yard, there are things about a home that you have to have. And, it's a cliche. I know it is. It's you marry the home and you date the rate. I think you
Hmm.
may have even taught me that, get in your house right now. And I think getting into a house, do it now as a buyer because there is seller concessions. There's the buy
Yeah.
downs. There's so many opportunities for someone when they're buying a house today. And that as soon as rates come down just a little bit, and it will, we just don't know when, but it will. And
Hmm.
then sellers will look at moving again. And then buyers who've been sitting on the sidelines this time, they'll be back in force. So, what's going to happen?
Yep.
We're going to be over ask price, and then I'm going to start waiving inspections again. And, that's a
That's
whole
right.
nother segment as if that's smart or not. So
Yep.
I think
Totally.
it's
Yep. I
buckle
agree.
down and hold on because brighter days are going to be coming ahead of us, especially in this market.
Yep. Totally. Well, let's talk about this NAR ruling. It's definitely stirring up the industry. So many people are talking about it. Bring us up to speed about where this is and what's happening, in
Well,
case
in
someone's been
case you
living under a
haven't
rock and
heard,
hasn't heard about it.
there's a lot of chat. There's a lot of chatter about it, and it seems like every day there is an update on it. So, I'll give you a little background about what happened. If you've sold a house, you agreed to a certain amount of commission, and
Mhm.
then that's what the seller pays. Well, portion of that commission, as we all know, goes towards the co-op brokerage, right?
Mhm.
And a couple sellers got together and decided, well, I didn't want to pay the buyer's agent. Why did I have to pay the buyer's agent? And so they went around and started suing everybody. There was a big monster class action lawsuit. I think actually there's two. Neither here nor there, but a lot of the big name brokerages got named. Now there's been quite a few who have settled,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I think there's still some that are not. And so the National Association of Realtors, their rules guidelines, they had interpreted their rules to say the listing agent had to offer a co-op commission to the buyer's agent.
Okay.
They had to. Now they have, and the technical term is, and I love this, they have reinterpreted their rules that zero is offering that's an offer. I can offer you $1, I can offer you nothing, but I still made the offer. So
Okay.
as agents know, when you're putting an MLS, there's, here's the co-opting agent commission amount. You'll see it on the Zillows, you'll see it on the Redfins, all of the public sites of MLS. It's there in the realtor owned MLSs that only realtors have access to. But now the consumer can see it too. So fast forward a couple of weeks ago, they have agreed that, all right, zero is an acceptable offer. $1 is an acceptable offer. And so now we're looking at, there's going to be a kind of a paradigm shift in our industry. Who's going to pay the buyer's broker? Who's going to pay that now? So as a listing agent, and you're having this conversation with your buyer or your seller, excuse me, before you list their property, and there's going to be a lot more transparency. This is what you pay me. This is what my value is to get your house sold.
Mhm.
And this is the amount. Now, I think they're going to possibly put in the listing agreement, executive exclusive right to list agreement with the seller. It's like, okay, now how much would you like to offer the buyer's agent? Because that is now
Mhm.
your choice. Now, how does the seller want to get his house sold? I'd still stay with, whatever that percentage is that's, customary for your area. And if they turn around and say, well, I don't want to pay them, I mean, that's their prerogative. But I think the
Right.
question comes, how many agents are going to bring buyers to, to see your house? Now, will
Mhm.
they? I'm sure they will. But then now, as a buyer's agent, there's other conversations that you need to have with your client.
Mhm.
This is what I charge to help you buy a house. Typically the seller pays for that. And if for some reason you end up buying a house where the seller's not offering that, then it's now your responsibility to pay this. So that's a conversation to be had
Yeah.
with your buyers before you get them in the car. I mean, I love this. I was with one of my real estate teams, and it was their team meeting recently, and so this was their
Mhm.
entire meeting. And the conversation came to the managing broker is like, okay, everybody in this room, how many of you have put a buyer in your car before you had your agency agreement signed? And everybody's
Mhm.
like, I've done it.
Yeah.
I've done it. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like, well, going forward, are you going to spend that time with them if you're not going to get paid? I don't know.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
as a buyer's agent, being prepared to have that conversation with your buyers on the front end, and the have a list of what's the value that you bring as their agent to the transaction. I am representing you. You are my focus. You're the one who I represent. I'm going to help you with contract negotiations. I'm going to help you with inspection negotiations. There's so many things that a buyer does or the buyer's agent does
Uh-huh.
that is going to save that buyer time, resources, and dollars right there. So having that conversation with your client ahead of time just eliminates this. Oh, I thought the seller was going to pay that. Well, the seller didn't offer it. And then you have the conversations like, I want to see these homes, right? Well, hey, I'm happy to show them to you, but just so you are aware, the seller's not offering to pay the co-op compensation on that. That would be your responsibility. So is
Right.
that going to deter a buyer from looking at your house? I don't know. I mean, I think there's
Yeah.
still a lot of question marks out there. And then there's so many resources out there for buyers. All of the public MLS websites, well, they're not public MLS websites. They are marketing websites to get engagement from consumers. It's your Zillows, it's your Redfins, it's your realtor.com, right? And so as a buyer, I can go find my property. I can call the listing agent and say, hey, would you represent me? So now you've got some ethical questions of, I have an exclusive listing agreement with my seller. That is my, that's my client. Now, if the buyer comes to me and says, can you represent me too? Now they're a customer, and there's less things that, what was the word? I'm trying to find this again. I love this. So buyers who are treated as a customer, they're only owed a fair dealing instead of, full representation. It's a fair dealing. I saw that comment on the Colorado Association of Realtors, and I thought that was genius. So as a buyer, do I want someone representing me or not?
Well, we were talking about this off camera, but fair dealing does not mean dual agency, right?
I don't believe so. I don't know. And that's something we should just,
as far as you understand, at least.
I don't think so. No. I mean, can you represent both? I mean, as exclusivity? No, because that just kind of negates the whole piece of it. Now the buyer becomes a customer for you. Does the brokerage, I mean, that's something that agents really should talk to their managing brokers about. Do you allow dual agency? Can I represent both? And then it turns into, if there's a problem, which one do you like best? Who are you going to fight harder for?
Because under that dual agency, though, like, I'm not a realtor. You're not. I mean, from my understanding, I don't even know if I'm using the right term, if it's actually called dual agency, but but when an agent's representing both sides, aren't they supposed to be neutral technically?
I think they should be. I think so.
Okay. So this might be something that's a little bit different. It's not even really a dual agency. They're still representing the seller. The buyer is not paying anything, so they're just kind of representing themselves, basically.
They literally are. I mean, think about how they don't know what an agent knows, right? They don't know how to negotiate. They don't know how to how to really fill out a contract, because, it's the buy side that always submits a contract to the listing to say, hey, will you accept my contract? Did they fill it out completely? And if they didn't, is the listing agent going to come back and say, hey, you might want to mark this box, or, here's the implication if you select the box, I don't want to say wrong, but do you understand what this means when you chose this instead of that?
Right. Like, ooh, cool. They said that the seller is not paying the owner's title insurance. Yes.
We're not going to prorate taxes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Just a couple examples.
We're going to let the buyer pay all those HOA fees because they're so inexpensive.
Right.
There's so much there.
Oh yeah. Nothing to that. Yeah. I mean, there's so many layers of potential problems here.
I think there is.
And I've got a million questions going through my head. You said off camera also that this new change that we're talking about in the States, they've been doing this way in Europe for a long time in a lot of countries.
So it's very common in Europe. I actually found out that one of the agents that was in this team meeting, I think she's from France. And she said it's very common in Europe for the buyer to pay their broker, the seller pays their broker, and then that's just the way it is. It's just split like that. There are some countries in Europe too that the buyer pays both sides of it. So they're going to pay the listing and the buyer's agent comp.
Interesting.
Is that making its way here to the United States? I don't know. I tell you what, I would love to see make its way to the United States is the entire month of August being a vacation month. So
right.
I think they have great ideas. Will it
Yeah.
fly here? I don't know. It's just a question that we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
Yeah. Well, and then, going back a few minutes to when you commented, our buyer's agents, if the buyer is represented, are they going to show homes that have 0 buyer commission listed? And that has a whole layer of potential problems. I mean, from a listing agent's perspective, is that a smart thing to do? And then is it ethical for the buyer's agent to exclude homes that don't have a commission? You know what I mean?
I can't comment on is it ethical, but I try to always put myself in the position as the consumer. And if I'm listing my house, I mean, everybody wants to walk away. All sellers want to walk away with as much money as possible. And if they did, I mean, look, the market's shifted. It's different than it was 3 years ago. And if I bought in 2020 and then I had buyer's remorse because I bought it without seeing it, or I bought it without an inspection, and I did my, that appraisal guarantee, I may have buyer's remorse today. And because I paid an extra $50,000 for my home, and now because the market shifted and things aren't selling for as high as they did 3 years ago, 2 years ago, you might be right at that break-even point, and every little dollar counts for the seller to wherever they're moving to, or they need that money. And so it's going to be dependent on where your seller is mentally, on how fast do I want to get it sold, how bad do I want to get it sold. And if I'm not going to offer that co-oping compensation, am I willing to let it sit here for a little bit longer? Because potentially some agents won't. Agents, just like title and just like lenders, we all have different varying views on things. And, should they? I don't know. Can they? Probably so. It's just going to be to represent my client to the best ability. So if I'm a buyer's agent and I know that my buyer does not have additional funds to pay my compensation, they may not want to see a listing that offers nothing to the buy side. But instead of the agent, making that decision for them, they need to have a conversation. That's part of representing your client to the best of your ability. Disclaimer, I'm not a realtor. I play one on TV, but
yeah.
But like I said, I try to look at things through the eyes of a consumer, and I don't want to say it's common sense, but it's we need to look at things on how it affects the people that we represent.
Right. Well, and there's so many implications to this. I'm thinking about, just from my seat, from the lending side, how do buyers pay for this, especially buyers that are strapped to even get their down payment? So there's a lot of talk on our end as to how this will be handled. If it'll be allowed to be financed into the loan, or some other type of way to help buyers to do this. Because, a lot of buyers, it's all they can handle just to get the down payment. A lot of Chaffa buyers, how's Chaffa going to look at it? It's going to be really interesting, to say the least.
I think it's going to be, it's a conversation to be had now on the lending side. And can you roll that into your loan? It's like when you get an FHA loan and you roll in your FHA, your upfront premium. Can you do that now? I know you can with FHA loans. It's rolled in. It's like VA. Your funding fee is rolled in. Is there an opportunity for rolling in buyers compensation for, into their loan? I can't imagine that somebody's not talking about it yet. There's been so much chatter that I think somebody somewhere is talking about it. But I was just looking through, I love Housing Wire. I get a lot of my information from there. And one of the things that caught my attention this morning was what the White House is doing to make homes more affordable. or for opening up more opportunity for homeownership. And I'm like, what does that mean? You know, what can be done today to open up the floodgates for homeownership? And none of the stuff that I read today mentioned this topic of compensation.
No kidding. Wow. What kinds of things were they saying on that?
Oh, I've lost your audio.
Did they have ideas on how to make housing more affordable?
Well, there was several things. Let me go find this real quick for you. Funny, my Google box came right up to it. Oh, here's what I thought was really, really smart, and I'll share this with you. So HUD and FHA has a new policy designed to allow homeowners to use a proportion of actual or prospective rental income when they're buying a house for from ADUs or for ADUs added to the borrower's effective income for purposes of qualifying for an FHA loan. Have you seen this yet? Because this was hot off the press today.
I have not seen that. That's interesting.
So it says the new policies will allow home buyers to obtain access to affordable mortgage credit when seeking to purchase properties with ADUs, or add an ADU to an existing structure, or construct homes with ADUs. So think about this. Put your lender hat on for me. RJ, I want a loan. I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to add an ADU to it, and here's what I think I can get for rental income. Now, I haven't built it yet. I don't have a tenant yet, but I would like for you to add an additional $1,500 a month for me to qualify for this loan. What does that look like on the lending side?
So from a lending perspective, I could see where, I mean, obviously adding more income helps open up more that the home buyer can qualify for. But my question would be, especially on one that doesn't exist already, underwriters like certainty. So I think that probably that scenario would have to be for a like a 203K type scenario where they're going to build it as part of the loan because they want to have that collateral in place.
Right. I agree with you. I agree with you. And then when you've got your ADUs, can you think about this? I have a property that's got a walkout basement and it's got its own separate entrance. So now can my short-term rental opportunity, can that be considered an ADU?
That's a good question because we can't use short-term rental income as it is because we have to have a history. They want to see the fluctuations over time, kind of like self-employed buyer. And I wonder if they will also have post-closing verifications to verify that they actually rented it out.
I don't know.
So,
and then who's the responsible party to go chase that down?
Right. Very interesting. I'm hearing an echo. Are you hearing that?
Mm-mm.
Just want to make sure it's on the recording for the listeners. Maybe did you have headphones in before?
I did, and now I lost my audio. I'll try it again.
Is it working now? That can be so distracting. Can you hear me? I can't hear you though.
Now, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Are we echoing?
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. I was losing some audio there.
Oh, no problem.
But that was one of the it's the new HUD and FHA policies to help bolster home ownership.
Interesting.
USDA is doing one with the Native American Community Development. Have you been listening? Have you been hearing the chatter on this?
No.
Let's see.
What's that one about?
Why did I just lose you again? Let's see here. So I've got The Native American Community Development as a part of its efforts to increase access to homeownership for Native Americans on tribal lands. So that's a
There's been a
program.
program before on that. I wonder if it's the same one.
It could be. I'm starting to hear more of it's money that comes from tribal. It's tribal money. Like, I don't want to say tribal banks because I feel like I'm not explaining that right. But there are some, putting the title hat back on, there's some title underwriters who won't insure those transactions. Is because there is something in the lender's documents that says if for some reason we go there has to be, we go to court, there's a disagreement, there's an argument over something, and there's a claim, there's a title claim. They do not want to go off the rules of the U.S. courts. They want to go off tribal courts. And some of the underwriters says, I can't insure that transaction if I can't insure that any kind of litigation would go to a U.S. court. So
interesting.
Thankfully with Canyon Title, we do have multiple underwriters. So we've got ones who will, and then we've got the ones who won't. So for a transaction, we're able to flip it over to a different underwriter, and you don't lose time on your contract.
Okay.
So
what are their implications from the title perspective on the Nar ruling? Is there ways it'll affect you?
For title, I'm cool with whatever you guys want to get paid. I'm cool for whatever the seller wants to pay. If the buyer wants to pay it, that's fine. I think for title and escrow side of it is make sure that your escrow officer knows ahead of time what that is and who's paying for it. It's not necessarily a title function, but it is an escrow function. So I know none of us like surprises unless it's my birthday. That's coming up in a couple months. I'll remind you. But the point is, if title doesn't know that the buyer is paying for the buyer's agent, and the CD goes back and forth, and here's your cash to close, and then it's like, oh, the seller's not paying for it. Now the buyer's paying for it. Now the buyer's cash to close just pretty much changed significantly. And so, was that for the lending side, was that disclosed on your loan estimate? Now, is there a cure? Now, is the lender going to have to cure that because it wasn't disclosed properly up front? So it's going to be important for both title, escrow, and lending to know what that is. So again, there's no surprises that come out of it.
That's a really good point.
Can you imagine that cure?
Yeah. Well, that reminds me of a question I meant to ask. So these changes, are they actually in effect right now, or is there a date at which this change happens?
I think they're in effect right now, because if you take a little gander through RE Colorado into Matrix and look and see what's the buyer comp, you're starting to see zeros. You're starting to see $1.
No kidding. So definitely
try it. Mm-hmm.
Definitely something.
It's in a play today.
I don't have access to that either, but man,
I know
it's scary then if people aren't keyed in on this.
But I mean, I think, like I said, to boil it down with our conversation today is just about opportunity, and I think this will help the outstanding agents rise to the top of their game, because now there's way more communication. And I think the consumer who sees the value in understanding the process, knowing what I'm going to go through, setting proper expectations. Now it's not the transaction that it is with some, I'm going to say some people, some brokerages, some, it's a transaction. And then I think with your long-standing agents who've been doing this for 30, 40 years, God bless them, because they've seen all of these cycles come through. And, this isn't going to scare them, because clearly they've already shown the value to their clients of what they bring to the table when, you work with them. And so I think that the good agents are going to get greater. And if you can't share with your client, this is the value that I bring to the table and to your transaction. And when you work with me, if I'm helping you buy a house, these are the things that I'm going to do for you. If you can't articulate that to a consumer, they're probably going to go to Zillow and then find who the listing agent is and call them directly.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, there's been so many changes over the years, those of us that have been around a long time. And
Mm-hmm.
it seems like a lot of these big changes, there's so much uproar. I don't know if that's the right word, or a lot of chatter
Mm-hmm.
about it, and people worried and all these things that
Mm-hmm.
could happen. And then it happens and we all adapt and move on, and it's fine.
Right. Well, I mean, and I think
So,
we can adapt. It's going to
mhm,
be the new normal, and getting in front of it before, you know, this was the team meeting I went to. They were like, "Hey, if you're a listing agent, great. You're about to get more popular. But you need to you need to figure out what you're going to do when the buyer does come directly to you. And there's
mhm,
not an agent in there. So understand what your brokerage's, opinion is on that. Talk to your manager. What happens if, just being
yeah,
prepared for it so you're not behind the eight ball because it's coming. And
yeah,
if you're a buyer's agent, understand your value because you're very important to the transaction.
hmm,
Very important to the transaction.
absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely. Like I'm thinking
there could
about
be a lot of earnest money on the line that I got to protect. I got to protect your money.
totally. Well, and going back to how buyers will pay for this if they end up
Hmm.
having to foot the
Hmm.
bill, my worry is underserved buyers, or not underserved, but buyers that are on the edge of qualifying, being able
Hmm.
to afford to have an agent,
Yes.
not having the representation that they need and that they deserve to make sure that they get a good deal, that they don't miss something through the process,
Hmm.
get in trouble, whether it's legally or have the contract filled out wrong, and it costs them tens of thousands of dollars. Those kinds of things. That's what worries me, is
Hmm.
buyers who do see the value in having an agent, but they can't afford it. They can't buy a
Hmm.
house if they have an agent.
Hmm.
So I hope that doesn't come to fruition and we figure out a way to work past that part of it.
Hmm. You know what? Every day in housing is going to throw something different at you. And
Hmm.
it makes me giggle when you come across the ones that's like, well, I've been doing this many years and I never. Well, you know what? It's because it keeps changing. I never either. But you know what?
Yeah.
We're here. Let's adapt to it. Let's pivot and figure out how to get the deal closed. Because
Yep.
realtors, lenders, title, where I sit, none of us get paid if the deal doesn't close. So I think it's our job to work together as partners to make sure that, we get the deal closed.
Hmm.
You got a happy seller, you got a happy buyer, and let's move on and continue and build on that relationship, because I think it's so important, and I think you'll agree with me, as a lender, you want to make sure the buyer's agent looks great,
Yep.
as listing, and as the title company. I want to make sure that both of those agents look like rock stars to their clients, because you know what, it's
Hmm.
all in the next referral. So
Yep.
if the customer has a good experience, if their client has a good experience, then they're going to refer their friends and their family and the person down the street. They're going, it's all about reputation, and,
Yep.
did you do a good job?
Yep. And I agree with you that it's going to up the level of service that buyers get.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
that the great agents are going to rise to the top. They're going to provide even more value because they're going to have to.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll hopefully be ultimately the best for the consumer.
Mm-hmm. I think it will. I think it will.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on, Penny. You're
You're
always awesome,
welcome.
and enjoy having you here.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Back again, our opportunity here. Yeah, thank you. And thanks for your listeners for tuning in. And if you guys need anything at all on my side, it's my title girl Penny. You can find me on socials, and there I am.
That was my next question. How can people contact you? Because
Yeah.
these guys, Canyon has been awesome. I send my business to them, and I just a little endorsement for them. They've been great. So
Well, we
enjoy working with
appreciate
them.
you. We appreciate you. You know what? I think I think it's nice to have fun, and it's nice to, not take yourself so seriously, but in business, we always take business seriously. I mean, we're insuring the American dream. We are
Yep.
issuing insurance on to make sure that no one can come and take your American dream away. So,
Mhm.
our goal is to make sure that you live a very long and happy life in your favorite spot.
Awesome. Love that. Well, cool. Well, thanks again, Penny. And for you, those of you listening out there, please subscribe to the show so you can get every week's episode. And I so appreciate each and every one of you. And please consider leaving a review if you're so inclined. And have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thanks again.